So what I want to talk to you about today is why success is on some levels incredibly, incredibly difficult and incredibly, incredibly painful, but why when it actually comes down to it, success is actually easier than failing. And this isn't going to be some contrived argument about how like, well, you know, your life's going to be way more painful if you fail, so therefore success is easier. It's not even like that. That's actually also true, but that's not what we're going to be focusing on here. What I'm going to focus on here is that when you first start trying to be successful, what you're doing is working harder within your limited paradigm. And so within the limited paradigm that you're in, success is actually very, very difficult. And what's going to happen at a certain point is either A, you kind of wear yourself down in that paradigm and just realize it's stupid over time and it kind of falls away like a scab, or B, what happens is that you just press harder and harder and harder, and through a process of introspection and self-observation, you start to realize that the hard paradigm is not even helping you, and it just gets easier. You just realize over time, you're like, oh, the hard thing just doesn't work. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm gonna get very, very specific in this video. My purpose in this video is to give very specific examples so that you can go and rectify it. The first one for me that was huge was in the topic of social success. And what I would do is I made a huge effort to go out to social gatherings, any kind of social gathering that you could think of, and work on my social skills. Now, I can remember I was actually shooting a video here about a decade ago, and I did what every single cheesy tourist does. Actually, we're at the Rocky Steps. You know the Rocky Steps in Philadelphia from the Rocky movie where he runs up the steps and he cheers? I actually did a video where I kind of talked about running up these steps right here. And I remember I ran up to the front and I made a video and I called Grind It Out Until the Bitter End, right? A decade ago. Wow, how times have changed. I had no idea what was coming back then. If I'd known, you could have told me, I wouldn't have believed it. But anyway, back then, my mindset was always grind it out until the bitter end. And that was something that was within a paradigm that made a lot of sense to me at the time. Basically what I was saying was, if you're working on social skills, just keep meeting people and do it maybe even until the end of the night, because you never know what could happen. And this was like a really, really big policy that I have. I even met the mother of my children by grinding it out to the bitter end. Literally, like my sons are kind of running around back in here, and literally they wouldn't even be here. So what's up to Vincent and Dylan and Tristan, if you're watching this, or any future children that I have, you're watching this, literally, if your father wouldn't have done the philosophy that I taught here in one of my old videos of grinding it out to the bitter end, you wouldn't exist, because I actually met your mom at like 3 o'clock in the morning, bouncing around in Hermosa Beach in Los Angeles. And what happened was the whole place was empty, and I went and I met one last person. That was your mother. This is something that hugely, hugely helped my life, was just grinding it out. Now, if you look at a lot of my demeanor, it's kind of, I have a sort of an unusual demeanor in the sense that I can appear on one level very present to the moment and calm, and then on another level extremely, extremely, extremely jacked up. And you might be wondering where that kind of weird combination comes from. And what it is that for a major, major period of my life, I was continually jacking myself up again and again and again for like 5 or 10 hours a day, or sometimes all day. But then for other periods of my life, I actually learned how to tap into being calm and letting that pull me forward. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that and how you can actually kind of keep both paradigms. But basically what it was for me was initially in socializing, if I wouldn't force myself to grind it out super duper hard, I would have too much fear to go and meet new people, so I had to overpower the fear. I also had a lot of laziness around it, so I had to overpower the laziness. And a lot of time I'd be, dealing with social rejection, and I would have to force myself through maybe wanting to give up or things like that. Also in building a business, this was a huge thing in building a business, where I would train myself to sit down often for 10 hours, or some entrepreneurs will talk about 16-hour days. And I don't know if I'd say it's like a full 16-hour day. You get up to go to the bathroom, I'd hop up to go to the gym or things like that. But largely, I would wake up and I would really try to, I guess the best word would almost be called self-denial, a denial of self. I would deny my basic humanity of maybe being afraid to go talk to somebody, or I would deny my basic humanity of being upset about a rejection, or I would deny my basic humanity of it's 3 in the morning, I don't want to keep saying hi to people, or I would deny my basic humanity of I don't want to work all day. I would deny that basic humanity of maybe not wanting to read a book all day that was educating me, or things like that, right? Or working on a product launch. It's a lot of denial of basic humanity, and what you're doing is you're just putting in the work and kind of putting in the reps. And if you can do that and deny that basic humanity and power your way through it and grind through it, what winds up happening is you get very, very rich, or you get incredible social skills, or you meet better people, or your life just goes better, okay? So that's the idea in the movie Rocky. We're literally sitting here on the Rocky Steps right now when he runs up and he cheers, is that he is denying, like they say pain is weakness leaving the body, right? And so he's got to go through the pain. There's incredible moments. I can actually find myself in tears watching the Rocky movies, because you see him overcoming the weakness. you see him overpowering that. These beautiful, beautiful scenes where he's on the mat and he's been almost knocked out and he has to find the strength, to deny that laziness and to beat it and to pull himself back up. If I talk about it long enough in this video, you'll start to see me well up, because that's a very, very powerful thing for anybody who's been through it. Anybody who's been through that connects with it. I remember there's another scene in the that's a real tearjerker in the Rocky it's like number 6, and it was just called Rocky Balboa, and it's actually like a classic self-help trope. He's talking to his son, and if you get knocked down, you've got to get up, you've got to keep going, and it like literally makes my hand shake when I think about it, and it would bring me to tears watching that. I cried in the theater and I cried in real life, and you cry from that because when you spent decades just denying your basic humanity and forcing yourself through things, maybe to build a multi-million-dollar business, maybe to become a great public speaker, or to have great social skills, or to develop emotional control and willpower, or to write your own ticket in life. To do that, it's a lot of willpower. It's very, very intense how much willpower that you have to exert. So that is why a lot of people will tell you that, I think Elon Musk might say success is like eating glass, or you've got Eric Thomas, who's very motivational. He's very motivational, particularly within that hustle frame of, he'll say you've got to want it so bad. It's like you want to breathe when you're drowning, things like that. And there's definitely a lot of truth in that. So that is generally a shift from apathy and being at the effect in life and victimhood to shifting into taking massive action. And this is basically what I did was, from age 22, I had light level autism. I understood that if I didn't go meet people for, as a form of basically self-therapy, if I wouldn't do that for 7 or 8 hours a day, and if I didn't do that for about a decade, it didn't matter what business I built, it didn't matter what success I got in life, I would continually be ostracized from society. I would continually be, to be honest with you, like I just had a very, very strong drive for intimacy, and I felt a strong longing for that, and not knowing how to get that, it was just driving me crazy. That's something that a lot of people don't empathize with. A lot of people don't talk about it, but it's actually completely miserable. Like, it's literally the most miserable thing in the world when you crave both physical and emotional connection and you don't know how to reach out and get it. It's completely miserable. And I don't care how much money you make. I've got many, many clients that are self-made millionaires, hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars. And if they can't find someone who truly is attracted to them for them, or who loves them for them, and not just using money or paying for it, it's one of the most miserable forms of existence. And so what I did was, with light level autism, major social anxiety, highly sensitive person, very paradoxically somebody who couldn't read social cues, and yet very empathetic for people and very sensitive and a highly sensitive kind of person, I was basically forcing myself, just launching myself almost like against a bed of nails again and again and again and again to try to eke out some kind of distinction. Okay, here's how you use your voice. Here's how you use your eye contact. Here is how to use body language. Here is how to control frames. Here is how to establish great logistics to meet someone and invite them into your world. Here is how to create, to invite somebody out to something cool. Here is how to keep talking and talking. Here is the amount of time that you talk that is appropriate, and here's what isn't. So working on that one, right? Here's how to make yourself laugh. Here's how to self-amuse and not chase reaction. Here's how to control your state. And again, this was me throwing myself into a bed of nails again and again and again. It's to the point that, a lot of my content can even appear like self-parody, and a lot of it actually is me doing so. I actually enjoy self-parody, but, even when I'm being serious, it can look like that to someone who doesn't get it because they haven't been in that situation. They haven't had that kind of social isolation, that kind of pain. They haven't experienced that kind of pain. They don't know what that's like. And so as a result of that, they might see me kind of like, firing up a crowd or things like that. Or a really big one that gets misinterpreted, what I say is like, I could be talking to someone who is dealing with a deep, deep, deep fear, and they're they're cripplingly shy and cripplingly meek to the point that they can't make any kind of eye contact. They can't project their voice. Their body language is tightened in. They can't make a joke or anything like that. And you'll see me saying like, get out there and do it, and then I think a lot of people see that and they imagine that I'm saying to this like some 6'5" brute, super, Giga Chad, telling them to get out there and do even crazier stuff. When in reality, usually what I'm doing that in most cases, not all I guess, but in most cases, somebody who has crippling shyness, and you've got to stretch them to a 10 to get them to a 2. But then people will take clips, of me stretching somebody to a 10, and then they cut it out of context to make it look like it's something it's not, or it could be me even doing actual self-parody, but they don't get what that's like. They've never had that degree of shyness and that feeling of throwing themselves against a bed of nails again and again for 7 or 8 hours a day to eke out tiny little small improvements, little small understandings eked out over decades, and what it's like to do that. And to be honest, little bit of side commentary here, I also do believe that there's something in our society that kind of wants, shy, basically just may want shy people to just kind of almost die off. And so any act of actually helping them to alleviate that people might feel like that's kind of against evolution, and so there's a natural triggering there. Or another one is they may be unhappy in their own social lives, and they're unhappy with their partner, and then to see some shy person getting better results than them, or having better social life than them, or better dating life than them, that also really freaks them out, and that kind of blows their mind too, okay? So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on. And so kind of coming from that sort of a framework, I had to continually throw myself against the bed of nails again and again and again, and just make myself do it, very painful, over and over and over. And I did this in entrepreneurship. And the funny thing is, here's like a really, really big key, and this is what we'll go into next, was that in truth, and this is where the shift from having to grind through it to making it easier comes in. In truth, the things that I was actually doing, while the hardest things that I ever did, from a different paradigm, from an elevated paradigm, were actually the easiest things in the world, right? And that, by the way, that's another critique of, some of my teaching, right? Because somebody also who gets that it's the easiest thing in the world is like, why are you making it this hard? But they don't understand that when you're speaking with somebody at a lower paradigm where I came from, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably where you come from statistically. You might have actually gone past that, maybe through this teaching, maybe on your own. But statistically speaking, you may very well come from that paradigm, so don't think that you're above it. When you're talking to somebody in that paradigm, somebody at a higher level who's like, dude, just chill, like this is so easy, they don't understand where that's coming from. But because I've lived decades like that, I've lived in the dark, I came from the dark, then I can relate to somebody who's in that mode. So what I'm going to talk to you next, and maybe we'll just kind of shoot the camera angle around here, is what it meant to kind of come out of that and to realize that like the stuff is actually easy, I'm making it harder than it is, and a lot of the difficulty in it is a function of the level of energy that I'm at. So the basic transformation that happened for me was sometimes I'd have many different positive social experiences in a row. And what I would get at that point is something that I'm going to call ducks in a row confidence. So ducks in a row confidence is basically what happens when you start to get what you want in a major way, and it just shoots up your confidence. Now, that is distinct from something that I'll talk about later, which is confidence that comes from the process itself, and confidence that comes from a core sense of value, deep-rooted self-esteem. But sometimes what happens is that if you go out and you try to meet new people, or maybe start a new business, whatever it is, what can sometimes happen is that you get a couple lucky breaks. So examples for me when going out was some nights I'd go out and nobody would want to talk to me at all, but some nights I'd go out and a lot of different people would talk to me. It was just statistical. There was nothing different that I was doing, in my opinion. It was, some of it was driven by changes in my behavior, but a lot of it was driven also by luck. So it's kind of like playing poker. Part of it is skill, part of it is luck. Some nights I go out, first person I talked to was like so receptive, it was beyond my wildest dreams. I was like, how is this happening? I remember one time there was a guy in his late 50s taking a program of mine, and he said to me, like, how long is it going to take me to get results? And I said, who knows, right? Like, let's just crank this together and get you the result as fast as humanly possible. And I said, it's the kind of thing where, first night meeting new people, things could go amazing, or it could take you a couple months. It just depends. And he went out, and it was funny because he's kind of like a nerdy older guy. And he went out and he met the most incredible person. And it was about a, 25 or 7 year age gap. I think he was 57. He met someone about 22 and someone amazing. And his mind was blown. He's like, I should have just come and worked with you years ago. This was the most amazing experience of my life. I'm like, bro, a lot of this is just, it was, I love to take credit, but it was honestly a statistical anomaly. And so there's going to be statistical anomalies that when you go out a lot and you knock on enough doors, you're just going to have people that sometimes like you. It's just statistical, right? And the other part of it is, of course, your behavior, which super duper stacks up the stats as well. So I would have it earlier in my career where sometimes, statistically it was like a week straight, just terrible. But sometimes it was a week straight of just amazing, amazing, amazing. And I would start to get this very, very strong ducks in a row confidence. Now, when I got that ducks in a row confidence, what I noticed about myself was changes in my behavior. And I would try to memorize these changes in my behavior. So the major change when I felt very, very fulfilled was I tried less. I thought less. I didn't really think much at all. It really wasn't a big deal at all. Thinking less, doing less. But it was kind of like maybe I'd be talking to you and my eyes would just sort of hold laser eye contact. because I was so rooted in my own self-esteem and confidence. But of course, a lot of that was from my ducks being in a row at the time. It's kind of temporary. There's even higher levels of confidence. But first, we're just going to focus on this first shift. So what would happen was I realized that if I just tried less and didn't make it so hard, the whole thing would be easy. And that's what I'm saying, is that a lot of people who are very, very good socially would see some of the content that I do, and they're saying, why are you making this so difficult? Like, just tell them to be happy and it's easy. But the funny thing is, when you're in that low paradigm, saying to somebody, just relax, is so unrelatable and such a useless piece of advice, maybe beyond just saying like, that's something to point to for the future. But when you're in your own self-created version of hell, when you're in that, you can say to the person like, you're self-creating this, like this is a paradigm, this is a lie, it's a deception, you're in a low vibration state or whatever the heck you don't want to call it. You can say that, it doesn't matter, right? If you think otherwise, just think of times that you've been really, really upset and someone comes and tries to console you and you don't want to hear it. You're like, no, but still, no, I'm not going to hear this, right? You just want to be upset. Well, that's a very acute episode of being upset, but we can live in this kind of low-level refrigerator hum of anxiety and stress 24 hours a day. It comes from being traumatized, comes from who knows what, the paradigm society, all the evil in society and so on and so forth, consumer culture, all that, being very disconnected is like huge problems that we have socially. A lot of good stuff here too, right? But there's problems. So the idea being is that you get out of that for a minute and you realize it's just easy. And so what happened in my case was, whenever I would have that ducks in a row type confidence building, I would see how easy it is. It is just so easy, and the key is to memorize it. And when you're in that zone, like when you're flying on air, like when you're walking on clouds for a week, you've got to start writing it down. Like, ask yourself questions. Would I ever get mad if someone insulted me? Do I view anyone as my competition? Do I view anyone as my enemy? Do I feel like I have to be better than people? Do I feel like I have to try? Is meeting new people scary? And then likewise in business, I had similar experiences. Is work hard? Is it really that hard to sit down all day? Do I even need to sit down all day? Is there an easier way to do this? What's another way that I could do this that would work even faster? What paradigm am I not seeing? And so when you begin to recognize this, it gets very, very easy. And that's where you get to the point where the most transcendent entrepreneurs, for example, yes, they may have a lot of capital to deploy, they may have a lot of expertise and a lot of wisdom, but they also have that ability not to have wasted action, not to have wasted thought. They're not burning mental capital, emotional capital, time capital on things that don't work. So from a higher level state, what starts happening is, you might go out to meet somebody at a club and you're doing very, very little, but the driver becomes something else. The driver could be you just make eye contact that's effortless. Or maybe they say something to you and it's a vacuum or a pause that you take. Or you say something that is so truly about expressing your own joy that the mere act of expressing your own joy that thoroughly winds up attracting the other person because you're so joyful and you're so much in your own reality that it shows such self-love and self-confidence that they kind of feel like they want to keep up with your vibe. They want to be your friend. And it flips this kind of buyer-seller dynamic between the two of you to where they start selling themselves to you and they really, really like your validation and they want it. And that happens because you're just so happy in your own life and they admire you for that because maybe they have their own insecurities and they feel like you're somebody who's been liberated from that and maybe you're somebody who has something to offer. And it's very, very powerful. And then it gets to the point where you're like, hey, we're going to shoot off to an after party. And it's just this effortless thing where it's an offering and it's an opportunity to the person rather than a sale. And so there's a shift in the dynamic when you truly feel at peace with yourself, where you're just offering something. It's just an opportunity for them. It's not you self-qualifying. It's not you making a sale. And the same thing happens in sales. I mean, I'm to the point where really, really high-level salespeople will come and watch me sell, and I don't even need to sell very much at this point. And it's to the point where, if I'm doing a seminar, I will just do pure content. And, I was running a seminar here in Philadelphia, and a ton of people wound up buying stuff from us. And I did a grand total out of a 12-hour day of a speech, less than 2 minutes of sales. It was like, anyway, if you enjoyed that, I have a program that goes deeper on it, and if you'd like to learn more, meet me at the back. That's it. That was the total of what I said in the main room. Why is that? Because as I'm speaking to the audience, I'm coming from a position after many, many years, and particularly when I'm public speaking, because I'm so happy when I'm public speaking. So I'm coming from that mode where I'm here to help you. If you want more of my help, there's an opportunity. You could mentor with, I could become your mentor, or we could do a training together. And then people are just like, they freak out. And then, and people that are really, really high level pro salespeople will come and watch this and they're like, it's weird. It's like you're not, like there's so many of the traditional sale things that you're not doing. Now, by the way, truly, you could probably layer all those traditional sales things on top of what I'm doing and take it to some other level, but it's kind of just fun for me at this point in my life. Maybe later I'll do all that, and that could be really cool too, but at this phase of my life, it's fun for me to just go do an improvised fun seminar, mention for like 2 minutes, oh, there's this cool thing in the main room, and then basically that's about the total of what I'm doing. So that's something where it's effortless and it's easy, right? Like it's probably a weird vibe for somebody to come in. I was doing public speaking all weekend, my voice a little thrasher, but it's probably a weird vibe for somebody to come in, watch me crush 12 straight hours, in a seminar room, and then just every speech is more amazing than the last because I'm literally not even trying at all. It's just flowing out. There's very, very little difficulty in the speech itself. I'm loaded with energy. They've never seen somebody like that. And what happens is that when you're trying even less, your voice blows out, like your voice expands out would be a better word there. And it's very, very powerful, and your humor is on point. And your sales are on point, everything's on point. And it's one of these things where I'm not in that state 100% of the time, but it gets more and more frequent. You could see me out of that state. After an event like this, I'm going to take a day of rest a little bit. You're out here shooting the videos, my version of day of rest, but you see my point, right? But it gets easier over time. Or you'll see me put together product launches now that would have taken me 3 or 4 months back in the day and wind up taking me, an evening now. Like what I would have done in 3 or 4 months back in the day, I do in an evening. Well, why is that? Why is it so quick? Why does it happen so quickly? Because I'm not trying so hard. I'm not grinding it out. So let's get specific on what I mean by barely trying. What does that mean, barely trying? What it is specifically is that when you live in a self-imposed hell, then most of your mental energy, your mental bandwidth, your mental capital, thought capital, emotional capital is being invested into all of these different things that create this sort of density of the brain, and it creates this smallness that's in you that you're having to fight your way out. So let's take social skills, for example. Let's say that I think badly of myself. Then I view other people as competition. I don't view other people as my friends automatically. Let's say, not that every human is your friend, I'm not trying to say that, but coming from a starting point of like, I'm okay, you're okay, I'm gonna just share energy. Also, not needing something from another person. Like, look at the different commonalities here, right? Or rather, look at the commonalities that are going on. You need something from another person. You need their validation. Well, that's just exhausting, because now you're trying to put on a song and dance to get it. You're also viewing them as competition. You feel that you need to be somehow better than them or something like that. Again, it's exhausting. Being addicted to negativity and looping on that is completely exhausting. And so you'll see a lot of different people, and by a lot of different people, I mean like 99% of people or something, that are gaining food from this weird combination of trying to kind of prop up their ego. I'm good, everyone else is bad, I'm better than other people, and they're propping that up. Then walking through life nervous by other people and not just viewing them as friends, not seeing it collaboratively, and they're doing that. Then also being in spiritual growth, they call that being disconnected from flow. And what that means that you're not in your natural present to the moment state, you're very trapped inside the mind. And so you're always navigating this minefield of the mind, trying to avoid being insulted, trying to feel like you're better than other people, needing something from other people, being nervous to talk to other people. It's this very, very dense hell that you're stuck in. And some people, what they do is they try to master, be like the king or queen within that paradigm of hell. If you can't serve in heaven, you rule in hell. And so they try to get ducks in a row confidence, and that's what I got at times. And that does give you a sense of what it's like to just be confident. Because if you can get it to where you've got all your ducks in a row in life, you've got the money, you've got the significant other or significant others. If you're somebody who has a lot of friends and validation and popularity, if you've got that, all of a sudden that fear goes away. You're like, oh, I'm not afraid of that other person because I got this watch. I'm not afraid of that other person because I'm rich, yo. I'm not afraid of that other person because I'm jacked. I'm not afraid of that other person because I got a Rari. Things like that, which is great. Now, by the way, what's the cool side of that kind of confidence? It means that you're not just delusional, you're actually getting out and earning it, right? You're throwing yourself against the wall of nails again and again and earning your confidence. That's a good thing. But from there, as you're building that confidence, throwing yourself into the wall of nails again and again, and slaying dragons metaphorically, and earning your stripes, as you're doing that, you know, you start getting more confidence, you get more confidence, you get more confidence, you say, wait a minute, what is it that's actually triggering the better results here? Is it really me making this hard and me being so densified in my mind that I've got to spike my adrenaline and spike my will and throw myself in action again and again and again and again and again and again like I've done for decades myself? Is it really that that's getting the result? Or, you know, say you look at your best night socially, what do they really look like? It's when you, in the ducks in a row type format, it's when you get a bunch of different good social response in a row, then you stop worrying, and that's what initiates the upward spiral. Because when you have a couple good ones in a row and then you feel good, or maybe you're on this massive win streak month to month, you have like micro momentum, say like in an evening, or macro momentum month to month, when you start to get in that role and you're killing it, what happens is that you stop worrying so much and you start to trust your own joke. You start to meet people very open and anticipating friendliness. Still calibrating and not making someone ever uncomfortable, that's never okay. But anticipating friendliness as a starting point while being aware of how they feel. And considering how they feel and making sure they feel good and having a win-win interaction. So you do that more and more. You start to trust your own things that you're saying. You start to loosen up more and have a lot to say. Maybe you're running a business or a seminar and you're not worrying so much, you're not so stressed because your ducks are in a row. And then you build products quickly. You create sales ads quickly. You're able to look at a sales ad and, you know, or look at how to study how to write sales ads or do video sales ads. And then you look at it quickly and you're not so trapped in your head like, well, what do people think of me? Like, is that okay for me to do that? Am I that type of person? And instead you're just like, oh, this would be cool. And you just do it. And it's just really very, very easy. So what happens is that when you're on that win streak and you're coming from a place that you are enough, then you realize that things just get easier. It changes the buyer-seller dynamic with almost everyone you meet, but it also allows you to try less, and then the few things that you do actually do work better, okay? Even me doing this video right now, I'm doing this after just smashing a several-day seminar here in Philadelphia that was running from early until very, very late. It was psycho. And I know when I come in here and I'm like burned to the ground, I'm about to shoot into some major events in New York, literally in like 16 hours-ish from now. I'm going to drive into New York, go to bed, and wake up and do a huge event there. I understand that I've got to try less. Even me kind of pushing the envelope, doing a quick video here in Philadelphia. I want to do the, you know, the Rocky Stair sequel, how to do it. I've got to try less. I've got to think less. Now, in this case, because my body's burned down, it's not going to be perfect. I'm going to be a little bit more shaky than an average video. But if I try less, that's when the video gets better. When I think less and try less. And I was really feeling that in the seminar this week, just like trying so little, and it's just blazing out of me. And you'll see some of the videos that come out. They're going to be so sick. I'm really excited for you to see them. I'm really, really proud of them. So that's when you're going to do your best work, is ironically when you're trying less, but that doesn't make sense when you're first starting. So recognize that you can live in a hell on earth and then have to fight your way through it and slay dragons, or you can live in what you'd almost call metaphorically, to a certain extent, like a heaven on earth, to some extent. And what that means is you're tapped into flow, and you're not burning down mental energy in smallness, in worrying how you stack up to other people, in ego protection, in fear, and so on and so forth. And instead you just open up. So you're so realize that so much of when they say, oh, when you start a business so hard, that is coming from a paradigm of total density. And it's coming from a paradigm of things being hard. It's coming from a paradigm of where the average person is at. And you're just going to experience life differently. You know, it's like there's a lot of fast food restaurants here in Philadelphia. And you can tell they're really meant to connect to somebody who's in kind of a low state. And for them, that's all that they can kind of take in. Or drugs and alcohol, that's all that they could take in. But somebody in a higher state wouldn't enjoy that kind of food. Maybe they like healthy food. It just tastes better to them. They resonate with it. So that'll be a good future video. Maybe that'll be the next one we shoot, perhaps. We'll see. On the idea of what it is that you resonate with and why it is that you get stuck kind of not able to resonate at a certain level, and what it takes to kind of shock yourself into resonating at a higher level. So we'll go deeper on that into the how-to. I feel like we've kind of, you know, done a cool deep dive here, and we'll just keep shooting more videos, and we'll go even deeper. It'll be a lot of fun. But basically just understand that idea that when you're first starting, you're in a very, very dense paradigm, and so it's going to take you just smashing your face in to take action. But ironically, in that paradigm, the easy solutions aren't real to you. They're not accessible to you. Your mind can't even perceive it. Your mind has the solution right in front of you, but it won't let you see it because it doesn't feed that dense paradigm or align to that dense paradigm. And it's so positive, that it gets you so out of your comfort zone, it just seems too easy and it seems kind of weird and you just can't resonate with it. Then what happens is you get all your ducks in a row for a minute, that gives you a taste for what it feels like for life to be easy. And then what happens is either you get stuck there, and you see a lot of people that are stuck there, they're puffing down cigars, smoking down weed, drinking booze, because they don't have access to independently generated flow. So they're always going flow, 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 money, money, flow, flow, flow. Dating, dating, flow, flow, flow. Winning, winning, flow, flow, flow. Fame, fame, flow, flow, flow. Cigar, cigar, flow, flow, flow. Alcohol, alcohol, flow, flow, flow. I'm the best. I'm the coolest one ever, flow, 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 right? Because they need the ducks in a row. But what I'm suggesting is learn from that. Like, get your ducks in a row. Go slay the dragons. That's beautiful. I love that. Like, I don't want to just hear about apathy from people. That sucks. This is coming from somebody that spent decades getting my ducks in a row. But then from there, what I'd say to you is write down those moments of ease when it's going well. When it's going well, notice, like, wait a minute. When this is going well, I start trying less because I'm not striving, I'm arriving. And look at how much easier it is and better that I do. And audit how you feel about, like, how do you feel about other people? Are you threatened by other people? Do you care if somebody trashes you behind your back or to your face? Are you nervous around saying hi to people? Can you easily see the solutions in your business? Even if you have hard things in your business, can you easily see the way out? And so on and so forth. It's not going to be 100%. Look, sometimes what they're trying to do the economy these days, we'll see, right? Things have been going good so far, but we'll come back. We'll see how this ages. So you see my point is, like, you can take note of this, keep writing it down. It's not a perfect method. It's not like when you just arrive that it's always going to be easier, that you can't fail. But I'll tell you this, success does get a lot easier. And it kind of gives you like a superhuman vibe that other people look at. And they're like, how do you do this? And it's like, I'm just okay with myself. I just assume the best. I just ain't tripping. Like, I'm not tripping anymore. And so it's easy. And then now you can become one of those people that looks at my old videos, or even me when I'm addressing people that are struggling, and go, why do you try so hard? Just be easy. Just chill. Just like be cool. Like, this is so easy. And realize that it is easy. It's easy to walk into a bar or club, meet everybody there, have an amazing time. It's easy to find some cool thing outside of your boring 9 to 5 that just has to be hard and find a way to make a ton of cash. It's easy. It's easy to have a ton of vitality. It's easy to be happy most of the time, if not just about all the time. Maybe not all the time, but pretty close. It's easy to just travel the world and do cool things. It's easy. But understand it's easy from the paradigm. And so it's up to you to continually familiarize yourself with that paradigm, maybe from getting those small wins, stacking them and then taking note of it, or from learning to kind of tap into source and to expand your mind, not to be in that density, to realize that other people are creating self-generated resistance. Even the people that are getting their ducks in a row are often finding other ways to self-generate resistance. Get out of that, get in the flow, and start letting it be easy. So we'll go much, much deeper in the future on how to kind of push through those kind of shocking experiences where, like, it freaks you out that it's that easy. Like, it can't be this easy, you can't even sleep. I'll go deeper on that in some upcoming videos, but just take this main point. If you're new and you got to just slay those dragons, then do that. Don't be lazy. Don't be a derper. That is a one-way ticket to hell. Look at the average person. It's really sad. Don't do that. And don't wait till you get in the flow and only do that. Like, I thought I could only act like I'm in the flow. No, just start. But that said, also keep auditing what it feels like when you're winning, and then allow yourself to arrive, because you've now familiarized yourself with that state, but then you don't rely on the crutches of having the ducks in a row anymore, and it just becomes who you are. You have core value, real self-esteem, real access to flow, real independently generated transcendent experience. Is beautiful. It flows through you. It flows out of you. And now, rather than going like this, trying to get everything in a row, and that's like your whole life is maintaining it. I'm rich. I'm awesome. I'm this. I'm and then anyone that defies you, no, I'm better than them. And it becomes an obsession. Instead of doing that, like a lot of damaged people that get into personal growth and actually makes them weirder and worse, instead be someone where you're tapped in and the energy moves out, and you're just there to add value, and you get paid a lot in the process, and you heal socially in the process, and you're happier in the process, and everything's awesome in the process, and you enjoy the process, and the process is ultimately where it's at and where the beauty is. Let's say that you're to try meditating, and you get your mind present to the moment where you don't think about the future and you don't think about the past, and you still your mind and you sit there for maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, could be 20 minutes. Common time is 15 or 20 minutes. So let's say that you were to try that. That's called meditation. Basically what you do is you fix your awareness on the breath, just in and out, and you allow your mind to still, not worrying about the future, not ruminating on the past, but just being completely present right here. Okay, so say that you do that. Now, what's going to happen when you do this, when you try meditating? If you've never tried it, you'll see this immediately, or if you're used to meditating, you're still seeing it, is that you're going to snap into being very, very present to the moment. From that space of being present to the moment, things are going to feel very, very easy. And here's what you're going to see. You will get to the point where you get so present to the moment that it scares you. It scares you that there's no inner thought anymore. It scares you that you're just aware. It makes you feel a little bit like you're dying. The reason why it makes you feel like you're dying is because you're identified with your inner voice. You're identified with what they call the ego. You're identified with that. You think the inner voice is you. So in Eastern philosophy, or more mainstream books, more recent contemporary books about Eastern philosophy, like Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, or A New Earth, which I like even better than Power Now, but you should probably read Power Now first. What he explains is that if you identify with what's called the witnessing consciousness, the awareness behind the thoughts, then what happens, it allows you to be present to the moment a lot more frequently. You know, you'd almost say all the time, it's not really all the time, but it's a lot more. And you'll be present to what you'll start getting rooted in being present to the moment, where that's you most of the time. But then if you want to initiate conscious thought, where you want to kind of go into your mind and use your brain, now what happens is that the witnessing awareness is the master and the thought is the servant. But what happens for most of us is that the thinking and thinking and thinking, that's the master, and then maybe we get into flow state once in a while when we dance or go skiing or something. That's most people. So what Eckhart Tolle explains is that we kind of inverse this, okay? So you almost want to think of it like there's the little waves on the surface, and then there's this huge deep ocean. We tend to identify with all the little waves going on the surface, when what we want to do is we want to identify with the deep ocean. You want to have it to where, you know, if 90% of your awareness is always on the waves of life, and 10% on the deep ocean, which is the stillness, instead we shift it to where 90% of our awareness is on stillness and 10% is on the little waves on the top, okay? So I still think all the time, I think regularly, but it's not running me. The problem is when your thinking is running you, is it can actually create a parasitic entity or energy form in the brain, where it makes kind of its own parasite consciousness on top of the awareness of who you are. And then what your ego starts doing is like making little fights with people, finding things to be mad about, always thinking about the future, always thinking about the past. It's a parasitic entity on top of the mind that runs you. And you'll see it where maybe, you know, with people who live on the streets, in many cases mental illness, I'm not diminishing that, also could be very heavy drug addiction, very, very heavy trauma, but you'll see that taking place to an extent as well. It's kind of in the mix, where it's continually ego-driven. And you know what you're going to see usually when the ego really, really takes over? When that parasitic consciousness takes over, you'll see the person like, I hate you, like that. Like it almost looks demonic in some cases, and frequently, right? You'll see that, and what's going on there is the ego is taking over, and it wants to do anything to stay in that stress state, like to create little enemies to make it have to think more, to create problems to make it have to think more, to think about the future to make it have to think more, to keep you small to make you have to think more, so that basically those waves trap your awareness, it traps it there, and it disconnects you from your flow. Then in order to really keep the parasite going, it's like, well, I've got to get all my ducks in a row then, right? So either A, you try to win by being the biggest victim, like maybe somebody who's, you know, stuck out here just like really in deep poverty, you get to be the greatest victim, you know, that can happen, or you want to be the greatest at something else. And so what winds up happening is then you're always fighting and fighting and fighting to get your ducks in a row in life. I want to be rich, I want to have the diamond watch, I want to have this, I want to have that. Now I have those things, so you're probably thinking, why are you saying that? But the difference is, where is it coming from? Are you getting rich because you want to be able to have beautiful experiences, add more value to society, and enjoy the process of getting rich? Or are you doing so to know who you are, and let's say that a brutal recession hit, or let's say that you got hit bad in the media or something like that, and you just lost your business temporarily or permanently, you know, you'd still know who you are, okay? So that's the difference. So again, this is something that's very, very unique, and you'll see it where whenever you bring a lot of positive vibes or positive energy, people that are trapped in that kind of consciousness can also get very, very threatened by it. The parasite that's there, that's like a need resistance, it sees something that's diffusing resistance and feels a need to lash out at it. You'll see this very, very frequently. It's just sort of a common thing. So understand that that parasite that's in your mind, it doesn't like it when things get easy. It doesn't like it when life's getting better. It doesn't like it when you get into a flow. And so understanding that that's a challenge that you're going to deal with, what happens is that the parasite is blocking you from seeing greater opportunity. It's blocking you from seeing better things. And so when you get into a better situation, let's say that you're like at some cool party and everybody likes you. Let's say that you're meditating and feeling ease. Or let's say that you are, seeing a beautiful business idea or seeing the opportunity for prosperity. Then what frequently happens is you don't have the discernment to see it anymore, but also what winds up happening is that even if by some miracle you are able to see it, there are some ways that people in negativity can see, I'll talk about that later. What also happens is that you can't sit with it, it kind of freaks you out. So it's very similar to that metaphor when you're in meditation, and what starts happening is you're meditating, and then you kind of like, you snap out of it, right? Right as I do that, that's crazy. So it's like you're meditating, you snap out of it because it's too easy. So that's a general concept I'm gonna give you. And what I'm gonna do, I'll give you a couple events in my own life where I saw that happening, and I think you'll realize a lot, and we'll even get this light working. It's actually at the end of a long seminar here, so the gears all run out of battery, but we'll get it working, and then that'll give you an even deeper understanding. We left the downtown and what was going on there, and we actually came to the most continuously lived in alley in the country. I think it's called Effortless Alley. It's in Philadelphia. It's very historical. We talk quiet to make sure everybody stays asleep. So I can remember many years ago finally getting myself into social situations where people were laughing and positive and just joked around and talked about positive or uplifting things for several hours. And I'm young and I'm finally in social situations like this, and I remember thinking, like, this is what I want. My friends bond by crap talking each other. They crap talk each other behind each other's back. Like if you're with this friend, you talk about this person, but then when you're with that friend, you talk about this person. They call that triangulation. We're talking about how we're victims. We're talking about how life sucks. Or we're talking about how we're better than other people, or how we individually are better than each other, things like that. It's a continual ego reinforcement. It felt weird just to be around people that were joyful or having fun. And I remember thinking to myself, this was what I always wanted. But it freaks me out being here, and I find this mentally exhausting. Why is it mentally exhausting for me to be around this? And I can remember being in social situations where I'd be out at dinner with better, higher level people than I was used to, and I would have to go home at about 10 p.m. instead of maybe going out to the club with them or something like that, because I was mentally exhausted just from being around something positive. That feeling of being in the present and not knowing who you are, and then kind of snapping back and going back in your addictions, this is what I'm really trying to point out to you in this video. I think this is kind of the unique focus or unique feature of this specific conversation that we're having. It's this idea that even when you get around things that are amazing, your brain makes you snap back. I can remember being in nightclubs and just crushing it and having so much fun. I was like, yes, this is amazing. And what I'm feeling is the energy moving out through me. It's like I'm tapped in and the energy's moving out through me. But then I start thinking, oh, everybody likes me. How do I use this take? Like, it's this feeling where you feel the energy moving out through you, and then you're seeing good responses, and you think, like that, which, by the way, it's good to receive, don't get me wrong, but it's coming from this kind of weird position where you can't handle not just being in this kind of taker, ego reinforcer mode, and you snap out of it. So I want you to notice, hey guys, when things are getting easier, going to New York shortly, Vincent, give me a high five. So what you're gonna notice is that when you are in this kind of mode where you're used to being negative and you're used to being small, as soon as you get present, you snap out of it. Or maybe you wind up making more money, or winding up spending a night with somebody who's at a higher level than you're used to. Your brain just keeps snapping you out of it. It's like there's too much electricity going through your core essence. So in some spiritual traditions, they'll say things like you have to give in order to receive. And I think that's kind of a interesting or unique way of looking at it, to where if you haven't invested into that sort of shift that you want to see inside yourself, if all of a sudden a little bit too much light comes in, it sort of fries the circuitry of your spirit, or like what you're able to house. It's like the voltage just kind of zapped up, and you can't actually handle it. So that was what I just generally noticed over time. And what I want to suggest to you is to start doing, what's up guys, come here, it's okay, come on in. Come say hi in the video, late at night. Say hi to everybody.
Hi. Hi.
There you go. Okay, let's start walking back this way. I guess this is the end of it. We're just kind of exploring out here. Okay. Shoot back. Go ahead of the guys. Go ahead of them. Go ahead. Okay. So we're in this like very historical place here, so just kind of have a little fun. But just begin to recognize when it is that it's like you don't know who you are when things get too positive, or it overwhelms your circuits when things get too positive. I can't tell you how many times I'd be talking to someone who I'm very attracted to, maybe out at a bar, and it's going so well because my mind is just quiet. I'm acting on instinct. I'm just having fun. Energy is just moving out towards the other person, and there's so much incredible chemistry, and then my brain just snaps out of it. It's like it can't sustain it. And so I think a lot of the process that I'm trying to put forward to you is putting yourself in these situations again and again. You know, another one, for example, is I'd go out to like the Nepali coast. Like you pick some beautiful high vibe place to go to, and again, your brain just like, it's like, oh, it's too beautiful. I've had it to where I'd be around a high vibe place and it enraged me and made me angry. I remember once I went to Nepali coast and I like rage quit the hike. Like my friends and me were in this beautiful place, and I kept obsessively talking about business. And then I was like, I gotta just leave. And then I just ran back home on this like 11-mile hike on the side of these beautiful cliffs. I couldn't handle being somewhere that beautiful. So that's kind of like the general message that, we'll hop over this way, guys. That's the general message that I want to get across. Come on, guys, go ahead. Yeah, that's the general message that I want to get across, is that it can sometimes be very, very difficult. You know, when a little bit of light comes in, like you're thinking like, I just can't wait to start easily making money. I can't just wait to start easily meeting new people. I can't just wait to start easily having chemistry with people. I can't wait to easily having easy access to energy or flow or being a better public speaker. But like you'll literally see this. I remember with public speaking, I would feel myself in a flow state, the mind's quieting, I'm smashing the stage. And then I'd want to get in some weird little self-qualifying comment or the need to get approval or validation. I'm like, oh, they're liking it. Let's get them to agree with me in my groupthink that I'm needing others to approve of, like weird thoughts like that. And so you got to begin to shift your sense of identity out of the person that's taking, but rather, you know, there's a beauty in receiving. That's gonna happen naturally. You can also lead situations like that. I'll get into that in other videos. I've talked about that. But you've got to get out of this mode of the small me and just pain against other people, identifying through external things, and go back to those basic kind of Eckhart Tolle principles. Read The Power of Now, look at it. If you can't look at it, if you find yourself like needing to take a nap when you have a look at it, I felt that too, and realized that I spent years and years just getting to the point where it was normal for me to sustain, you know, the kind of feeling of just being in my core essence. So begin to find your home in your core essence. Still use your mind, but don't have your mind using you, because what begins to happen is when your mind begins to use you, you can get to the point that you're so crazy and so whacked out that you need to create conflict with others and be in this small reality in order to know who you are. So that's just my basic message in the video. It's a message that's nuanced, but I feel like I've broken it down at a point where like you can kind of relate it to your own experiences, and that's kind of what I'm going for here. Kind of come out of the alley here. I've actually want to get a video shot in here. So I hope that made sense. And literally, we're just shooting to New York right now. We're gonna drive overnight, and we're gonna go crush the New York event. And yeah, we're just gonna go crush that New York event. It's gonna be sick. And I'll talk to you soon. Peace.